Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And this weekend is tearing us apart.
Yeah.
Or I should say, this week's content is tearing us apart,
Wow.
Lisa.
What a story.
Uh, well, let's talk about our weekend box office life, huh?
Yes. Yes. If you're new to the channel, welcome back. If you're new, what we usually do is we do some reviews. We
Mhm.
look at something new, something classic, and we have a few solo things to talk about. Which, uh, if you've picked up on our banter earlier, you got a hint at my solo thing. Um, but before we get into all of that, of course, we'd like to talk about the box office.
Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for Foster's Home for Imaginary Friend ripoffs, apparently.
Yeah.
Which I had wondered if it was going to be like that, but I remember watching the film thread, and it was either Chris Gore or Alan Ing had apparently watched it with their kid, and
Uh,
it's like just a complete ripoff of the concept.
mm,
Which, well, the wages of plagiarism are underperformance, especially you spend $110 million making an unofficial authorization or unofficial adaptation of a cartoon from 15 years ago.
yeah.
Like, if you could have gotten the Foster's Home name on it, you would have probably sold more tickets.
Yeah. That's. Yeah.
And
I'll be honest. I didn't even know this movie was coming out.
I've seen a fair amount of cross promotion for it. Baskin Robbins has either one or two special flavors out, and they have art of some of the characters from there. One of them I thought was kind of interesting, where she looked like a 1930s cartoon character, like
Oh.
like a like I think it was like an insect or a bee in the Betty Boop-ish style,
Ah.
which that was at least visually creative. But it just sounds like it wasn't a great movie.
Yeah. Which I guess family friendly movies are not Ryan Reynolds' thing.
No, which, duh.
Yeah. It's just the guy who plays Deadpool.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm sure he had a nice paycheck
Yeah.
that he can use to buy another cell phone company or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. We have the second weekend of the Planet of the Apes. A 56% drop isn't the worst outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crossed the 100 million mark domestically. So
That's an accomplishment that some movies haven't achieved lately.
yeah. Madam Web.
Cough, cough. For that matter, well, let's keep going. We got The Strangers Chapter 1, which I think is a horror movie of some sort.
Yeah, I believe it's a prequel to another. Yeah, uh, the first Strangers movie.
I've never heard of The Strangers, so.
I have. It's like a home invasion movie.
Hmm.
Uh, it was with Liv Tyler and I can't remember who played her husband in the movie.
So it's nobody with, if you didn't have Bob Odenkirk as a secret badass.
Yeah, basically.
Um, Then number four, we got The Fall Guy, which is just continuing its ignominious plummet. It's already available on digital purchase.
Yeah, which it's just one more sign that movie theaters are dying. Because it's just like, oh,
Or at least
at least we,
contracting. Like,
yep.
it shows that Universal didn't have a lot of faith in this thing, because we've
Uh,
noticed that movies like Dune Part 2 that they have faith in, they give them long windows.
right.
Wonka got a long window.
Hmm. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you get for making a movie about a TV, an obscure '80s TV show, just
and overstuffing it.
and overstuffing it. Yeah.
Speaking of people getting stuffed, the Challengers is in fifth place.
Ooh.
Am I incorrect?
No.
Yeah, which it's probably losing money at this point, but it's an Amazon movie, so they were probably, yeah, $55 million budget. This thing's losing money. But
Mm,
on the flip side, it's an Amazon movie, so probably they were originally budgeting it to shove it onto Amazon Prime, so it's
yeah.
gravy money, I guess. You get something out of it.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, and then if you want to watch something that with your $2 with your 1 day free shipping, yeah.
Yep, exactly. I haven't heard anybody talk about Back to Black. Oh,
Oh,
it's the
that's
Amy Winehouse movie.
yeah. I think Film Threat did a review of it.
I didn't. Yeah, I saw it come up on my feed, but I didn't watch it. International. Did this thing get released way ahead
Probably in the
in the
UK.
UK?
Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense.
because it's like 14 million versus the 3 million US budget. No, it only dropped on the 22nd. Sheesh.
Mm,
What's going on here? Did they just do a very limit? Oh, they did a much more. Well, they did a much more limited U.S. Theater release, just 2,000 versus way more for the UK.
uh,
Well, well, maybe I'm misreading that. Nope, 3,909 in the UK.
mm.
I guess Amy Winehouse was a bigger deal over there.
Yeah, I think she was. Yeah, because
Was she British?
yes,
Oh, see, I knew very little about Amy Winehouse. Uh,
I, all I know about her was that she was a hopeless substance abuser. Mm,
yeah, my Amy Winehouse story is that I knew her so little that I thought that, like, when Adele's music started coming out, I didn't really care for it. I thought, oh, that's supposed to be Amy Winehouse's last album. That's why it's getting so much play.
oh,
Then a couple of months later, I was like, the hell's an Adele? Mm, and why do people like her?
yeah,
Now, I've since softened on her a little bit, but yeah, at the time I wasn't too, I'm still not a huge fan, but
yeah. Mm. Yeah, I guess I kind of understand that.
yep, then we got Tarot, the horror
So,
movie that seems to be tanking.
yeah.
I don't care what kind of micro budget you're on. Five, I'm sure they spent more than 15 million advertising the thing.
Oh yeah. 8 million.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of those things where they have a deal lined up with Netflix or something, but still.
Yeah, they might eke out a modest profit from it.
We got Godzilla X Kong, which has been out for 2 months, and what is happening to this year? It seems like it's just disappearing.
Yeah. Well, it's almost June. I mean,
I know.
yeah,
It shouldn't be happening.
yeah.
Yeah, so right now, it and Kung Fu Panda are trading blows for being second this year behind Dune.
Mm.
Oh, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is in theaters last weekend. What?
What?
Yeah, you find all kinds of interesting stuff when you just scroll through here. Yeah, it was in
466
466,
theaters. Uh,
making an average of $15 a theater. So that's not a very good average.
no.
There were $15 a theater. There were probably some really empty showings there,
Yeah.
which is suitable for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is probably the worst of the Spider-Man movies I've seen.
Really? Oh, the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I was.
Doctor Octopus with Alfred Molina.
Yeah, yeah.
Give me the guy from that '70s show playing Venom anytime.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what real villainy looks like.
Yeah.
Then rounding out the top 10, we've got the Blue Angels, which is another Amazon MGM thing, which I guess is just a documentary that they put in IMAX.
Oh, I think I'm assuming it's about the Blue Angels, the fighter squadron.
Yes, and I'm noticing that they have a very high per theater average here, so
Yes,
that makes sense that it's an IMAX
IMAX.
thing.
Yeah.
Then we got Civil War, which after a month and a half is starting to shed theaters and is sitting at 67 million 105 worldwide.
Mm. Yeah. Uh, from everything I've heard about that movie, probably a good thing it's not doing well.
I mean, here's kind of the thing. So do you remember back in 2021, 2020, 2021, whenever The Last of Us 2 came out? And I just
Yeah.
remember thinking to myself, man, you took a depressing series and you made it more depressing by killing off a character that everybody liked, and then you gaslit the world by pretending that, oh, nobody ever liked Joel. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And made it like a grim revenge story where the character doesn't even get revenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I bring this up because it's like that is the type of story that you tell in good times when you kind of need people to remember that the world can be harsh. And it feels like we have this backlog of stuff from the good times that are designed to afflict the comfortable more than comfort the afflicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of those ideas that probably seemed like a good idea when it was initially greenlit, but
Yeah. Now, not so much.
yeah. Um, Now, as far as interesting things in the box office, we're not really seeing a whole lot of surprises. Besides, again, like they made an effort to promote If, and I've been seeing decent number of commercials for it places. But I just think that was this an R-rated movie or PG-13? I don't
That's
recall.
PG, I thought.
Uh,
Yeah,
oh, it is
PG.
PG. Okay, see, for some reason I had in my head, probably because Ryan Reynolds was in it, that it was actually like an R-rated takedown of the imaginary friend concept. Which actually, I guess that would just be Ted. So never mind, it's been done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's see here. Coming up, we have. I'm tired. What's the big movie that's coming? Oh, that's right. We have the Furiosa Mad Max
Oh, yeah.
prequel,
Oh, meh.
which I've heard meh about it. Honestly, I'm an uncultured swine. The only Mad Max movie I've actually seen was the last one.
Oh, the one with Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I've not seen any of
Yeah.
the ones with Mel Gibson in it somehow.
I've never seen the first one, but I've seen Road Warrior and Thunderdome. They're um they're actually quite a lot like the last Mad Max movie. They're very bizarre. Like,
Yeah, and it's the same creator. I'm just not sure that like Furiosa was a fine supporting character. I don't really care about her origins, especially since the first movie was kind of already about her origins.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure why George Miller decided to make that. I guess it just
Well, he had an idea, I guess, and he talked some people into giving him money for it.
yeah.
The other big release is Garfield, which I think could actually do pretty well because everybody likes Garfield,
Hmm.
or at least everybody has had a stage at which they have liked Garfield.
Yes, and Chris Pratt is voicing Garfield.
Yeah, and the last animated movie that Chris Pratt voiced and made $1 billion.
Yeah,
I remember at the time when there was controversy around, why did Chris Pratt get that? And it's like Nintendo's a very conservative company, and it's also kind of like how when they did Ghost in the Shell, the Japanese companies wanted, no, we want a big time American actor
yeah,
because Scarlett Johansson will put butts in seats.
yes. Well, she was supposed to, but didn't.
Pro- okay, let's be honest here. She probably put more butts in seats than we would have had if it had been some random Asian actress who nobody knew about.
That's true. Yeah.
But
Mm.
trying to think of a transition here.
Which show? Okay. Okay.
All right. So this is just a little mini review here. Just kind of a getting the word out. The second season of Smiling Friends has arrived, which Daniel had never seen any of it. Smiling Friends is basically it's the latter day Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It's an Adult Swim cartoon done by a couple of, or at least one of the main voice actors and creators is a major character in the Oni Plays Let's Plays here on YouTube,
Okay.
which I guess is how he got his entree into the industry, at least partially.
Mm.
And it's just basically a varied CGI, or it's a varied animated show where you'll have stop motion elements, CGI elements, hand drawn elements. Incredibly disturbing. In the first season, the first episode ends with it has as a voice actor they have one of the guys from Red Letter Media play a suicidal guy,
Yeah.
and at the end of it, he's like, well, yeah, just think about it, and you try your best, and nothing will work out, and then someday the sun's going to explode, and nothing will matter. And the little happy pink guy on the right there is just destroyed by it. So it's a very cynical, weird show, but it's also very funny just in terms of how unexpectedly bizarre it can be, and just some nice little one-liners. So, like the episode I have here in the screenshot for is you have Gwimbly, a made-up '90s arcade or '90s 3D platformer hero in the style of a Crash Bandicoot or Banjo Kazooie, who he's a homeless bum now, and they're trying to help him get back on his feet. And at one point, they go to the company that he helped build, and now, and you have this fat cat executive there, like, oh, hey, can we make a new Grimbley game? No, no, now the market just doesn't want it anymore. Well, can we license it? No, it's my IP. I'm going to sit here and do nothing with it. Which there are so many beloved video game IPs that applies to. So
Yes.
it's kind of close to home.
Yeah.
So I could definitely say that if you enjoyed the first season, it is not dropped off in quality at all. If anything, they've allowed themselves to get more absurd and ridiculous, uh, and just like I showed Daniel a variety of clips. Daniel, would you say that they were pretty nuts?
Yes. They're pretty nuts. Yeah.
Uh, oh, and also, I just happened to hear a clip of myself or a little bit of my audio on the side chat. I'm incredibly stuffed up today, so apologies if I sound stranger than usual.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually almost, if I was a little more nasal, I'd sound like the yellow guy on the left there, but he has a
Yeah.
very distinctive voice. So,
Uh,
but yeah, it it's available if you have access to Adult Swim or Max right now. So give it a watch.
yeah. Cool.
At the very least, it won't be a disaster.
Oh, ha, ha, ha. Yes. Yeah. So
You're
my
my
my.
favorite co-host, so I'll let you talk uninterrupted. He said, interrupting him.
Yes. What? Ha, ha, ha. What the story, DB? Uh, yeah. So I finally got around to watching the Disaster Artist, which is of course about the making of the best worst movie ever made, The Room. Um, and of course it's starring and directed by James Franco, who plays Tommy Wiseau. His brother Dave is playing Greg, who in The Room he's Mark. Um, and it's basically like uh, the first part of the movie is showing how they met, which I don't know how much of of course, I haven't read the book. I'm probably going to listen to the audio version of it at some point. Um, but it shows them meeting in an acting class, and and Wiseau kind of strikes me as like the the really the friend who's the bad influence.
Yes.
He's just like he's a bad influence on the on this person, on you, but for some reason you just like you can't help but like him, even though he's just like he's eccentric, he's a liar, he's he just but for some reason Greg just gravitates to Tommy, and then they end up they end up going to LA to try to get into acting, and of course they struggle with it because they're not really good actors.
At least Tommy isn't.
At least Tommy isn't, yeah, because he he can't seem to shake that European accent, which he says is a New Orleans accent. uh but then they just both of them decide, okay, well, let's just make our own movie, and then Wiseau writes the script for The Room, and tells Greg, oh, well, I want you to play Mark, and um, the, the rest of the movie is just like the absolute excrement show of them trying to make this movie, and it's just like they like the first scene they show them filming, they're in the filming in the alley, but they build the alley, and then Seth Rogen, who's like I think he's like the assistant director or whatever, first AD, he's like, well, why don't we just film it out in the alley? It's like, no, because this is real Hollywood's movie.
Yeah, they had like badly CGI in a sky after the fact.
Yeah, because they got the green screen, and yeah, they had the whole reason they filmed in that studio, and I remember you telling me about this, and it's in the movie, that they go to this camera place because they're
Oh yeah.
they want to buy, they get the rent their cameras, and they're like, okay, well, we charge this, our rental fees are pretty reasonable, and why is it? No, no, we buy the cameras. They're buying, like, what? Like, do you want to film and do it on film, or do you want to do it in digital or HD? Like, oh, we do both. Like, what?
Yeah, it's like he pointlessly wasted money buying things you're supposed to rent because they have a limited like technical lifespan, dummy.
Yeah. But then the camera guy or people were like, "Oh yeah, we'll sell them to you actually at a discount if you film the movie at our studio." And like, "Oh, okay." So and then and what kills me too is the famous, "Oh, hi, Mark." They filmed that scene. It was like 68 takes because he could never remember the line. Like, you wrote the script, Tommy. How could you not remember the line?
Now here's the crazy thing for you.
Yeah,
Um, so first off, the little minor fact that I figured out if I picked it up there or elsewhere, but because they were filming simultaneously on two cameras that were right next to each other,
yeah,
it made it the easiest 3D conversion ever when that was a thing.
yeah.
Um, but also, uh, when I watched this movie, I was actually a little bit disappointed because they left out some of the funniest stories and bits from the audiobook. So I can tell you that if you liked that, the book's even better.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to listen to that audiobook. But yeah, it's and what got me too was when they were filming the love scene, and he's
Oh
just running
no.
around, he's walking around completely naked and doesn't care. You're like, shouldn't we have this? Shouldn't this be a closed set? No, this is open set. It's like, oh god.
Man.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau is like a interesting study in like being a completely totally incompetent, and yet somehow turns out something that people enjoy. Like, just like,
Well, sometime I feel like I need to watch one of his other movies that he's made since then, because the trouble with him is that now he's in on the joke.
yeah,
Like he'll know, because where this is great, and where like most of the movies for Mystery Science Theater were great, is that it's completely like it's a good faith attempt that just completely botches itself.
Yeah.
Like when people try to make a bad movie on purpose, it usually doesn't work just because they're like too ironic about it, detached about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I heard that about Samurai Cop too. Like it just it was a little it was too self aware. Yeah.
As opposed to Samurai Cop 1.
Yeah.
You know what's hilarious about Samurai Cop?
Yeah.
The people over at Sega, I think it was Sega of Japan,
Mhm.
they were obsessed with this thing. Like, they kept wanting to make a video game out of it, get the license. I think the American side kept telling them, no, it was only popular in Japan, and nobody here liked it. It's a worthless license.
Yeah.
Uh, as I recall that story from the Console Wars book.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean this was an interesting movie, and I thought it was kind of really a fun little in depth look at the making of this movie, and I really like during the premiere when they're all watching it and they're like, and the what's his name, the guy who played PETA from the Hunger Games. He plays the guy who was the kid in the
Mhm.
room, and he's like, is it just me or is this really bad? Yeah, and then then and then the audience just starts laughing, and then Wiseau gets up after the end of the movie. Said, "Well, thank you all for enjoying my comedy."
Yeah, I remember Mike from Mystery Science Theater kind of tearing into Wiseau when he about that because it's like he didn't like that he like, look, like you did a bad job. You can't just hide behind the fact that it was a comedy all along.
Yeah, yeah, and the just the one woman who has she has breast cancer, and then in the movie they're like, it's just this never comes up again. Like, it's never mentioned.
I would almost believe in the context of that movie that she was just making it up for attention from her daughter.
Oh yeah.
Now, mind you, this is me putting more thought into it than Tommy Wiseau did.
Yeah.
Like just from watching the movie a couple of times and what I got from the Disaster Artist movie and book,
Yeah.
it's like it's a very heavily autobiographical story, and so you wonder if that detail ended up in there just because like the whatever woman wronged him and damaged him in his past
Mm.
uh, had that detail in her life.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Like it's not
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Probably. Oh, yeah. And the other thing too I liked was that they actually recreated a lot of the scenes from the movie in this. With like Franco playing Wiseau doing the
Yeah,
what going into the flower shop, and
yeah. Like well, this movie was really like it was a phenomenon at the time. It's kind of easy to forget.
yeah.
I know that among other people, internet reviewers like the Nostalgia Critic helped bring a lot of attention to it because people like me hadn't ever heard of it before.
Yeah.
So Tommy was definitely profited off of me because of Nostalgia Critic.
Oh yeah. 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 Of course we don't know where he got his money.
Yes.
So so whatever money he had before making the room, he obviously has made more money since then.
Yeah. I mean, from what I could tell, he ran a bunch of kind of hole in the wall fashion shops
Uh,
that throughout California, and the version where he isn't like mob connected or something is that he was selling counterfeit jeans and stuff.
oh, I can see that.
It's like there's a lot of money in if you can do that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, it's on Netflix right now, but I think it leaves at the end of the month.
Oh, so then you have there's something for you to watch for the weekend. That's good.
Yeah.
definitely the a stronger overall recommendation than I can give. Oshinoko. You might say, DB, that anime ended last year. How are you only reviewing it now? Well, you see, I have a group of friends who I watch shows with, and it's a group of four. And as we all know, after a certain point, as once you have more than two people in a meeting,
Hmm.
the odds of getting 100% attendance at any given time is basically zero.
Right. Yeah.
And so, we have series where, okay, if A and B are there, we watch this. If A, B, and C are there, we watch this. Well, this was the rare A, B, and D person combination. So it
Uh,
got watched slowly over the course of a year.
yeah.
Uh, so what's else you know, Co? Well, it's probably the biggest reason anybody is subscribed to the High Dive anime streaming service. Uh, they kind of lucked out getting this exclusive because it isn't on Crunchyroll. And despite that fact, it's actually really popular and influential.
Mm.
Like the theme song from it was a top charter last year,
Ah.
and I'm still seeing Japanese performers releasing covers of it to this day.
Oh wow.
It was done by Yoasobi, who's one of the bigger groups in Japan.
Mm.
But I think I have actually done a kind of preliminary thing of it before, but I've done the whole first season now. So this is weird to review because I actually rage quit the manga. Because this, my friends and I agree on this. It's a show that has good qualities, but there's also a lot of weird caveats with it.
Mm.
So, Daniel, do you know anything about this show?
I don't know anything about it. So,
Okay, so the girl there, whose name is at least I think her name is I. You'll see why I'm struggling to remember her name in a second.
uh,
Uh, so she's an idol, 16 years old, and she is beloved by this pediatrician. Now, different type of not different thing that starts with pedia.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a doctor, and he works at this hospital. He just really likes this girl's performances, makes him happy. He's a little bit of an otaku for her. He even gets some of his patients in on her,
uh,
including one little terminally sick girl.
eh.
The idol's performances just give her a reason to live.
Mm.
And she shows up in his office one day, and he's at first kind of overjoyed. Then he finds out that she's knocked up,
Okay. Okay.
and she refuses to say who the father is. And they need to keep this hidden because that's the immediate end of your idol career.
Right. Yeah.
And now, as I'm reading this, the on the manga at least, on the back cover, no hint of what the story is actually about. As I recall, it just kind of gives you the what I just told you right there.
Yeah.
So the story I was imagining was, okay, so you got this doctor here who has this idol girl show up on his doorstep pregnant.
Uh-huh.
Basically, he's now her doctor. I could see a few ways you could go with this. Direction one, uh, it could be a romantic story. Direction two could be a comedy where you have this doctor realize that, well, idols are people too, and gets really annoyed by her.
Mm.
Like there's a lot of comedic potential there.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is that if I had applied my level of Weebanese, the title would have been eyebrow raising with that premise because Oshi is basically the term for your favorite idol or favorite performer.
Mm.
No is a word that means of, and ko means child. So it means child of my favorite or
Yeah.
child of my idol.
Yeah.
Because what the show is actually about is the guy is mysteriously murdered by somebody, and he is reincarnated as one of her twin children.
Oh God. What? Okay.
And his twin sister is the terminally ill little girl who he had gotten to be a fan of her early on.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, so you had basically the same response I did. I was like, of wait, what?
Oof. Yeah.
So that was so where I rage quit was I was like in kind of digging the first few chapters. Was like, okay, so he's dealing with this flighty kind of airheaded girl,
Hmm.
and who knows where this could go. Was not expecting that direction,
Yeah.
and I found his baby adventures very boring. So
Yeah.
one thing I do when I'm reading a physical comic is if I'm finding myself kind of bored, what I'll do is I'll kind of skim through the back half of it just to see like,
All right.
okay, is there where is this going? Is there anything here interesting? Um, well, one of the pages I got to was the idol being stabbed to death by the same guy who killed the doctor.
Ah, jeez.
It's like, but I liked the idol character. I wanted to see more about her. I mean, I would have preferred that she was interacting with the guy in a less weird circumstance than him being her baby. But
Yeah.
that could have still been good.
Yeah.
And so that's when I rage quit. It was just like you took away the element I wanted, and then you don't like the. I see that cover as a lie
Yeah.
because it promises that being your main character when she is not,
Yeah.
or at least a consistent presence.
Yeah. Mm.
N- Now, now a friend of mine watched through and said, "Nah, man, you got to give it another chance. Come on, you're being too judgmental here. You just because it's basically like it just wasn't the show that you wanted."
Yeah.
And I watched the first episode under protest with my group because I was like, I know what this is going to be. I didn't spoil it for them,
Yeah.
but I did tell them in a moment. Yeah, this is the exact moment where I rage quit as she's being stabbed to death. Um, so then you start watching the show itself, and where it's weird. It is weird because
Yeah.
where the show seems to be pretending that it's going is that it's like heavily focused on the two twins growing up and trying to figure out what happened to their mother,
Yeah. Yeah.
which involves their mysterious biological father.
Mm.
What the
Okay.
show really is, and I wonder how, like, why I had to do these convoluted steps to get there, is it's really an expose of being a child or teen actor or performer in the Japanese entertainment industry.
Uh. Yeah.
And here's the thing is that while I normally wouldn't necessarily go for a show like that, the show is very good at that. That's
Mm.
actually its strong points is it makes characters who you sympathize with as like, one girl gets canceled.
Oh. Yeah.
Another girl is a flash in the pan as a child and fails through her awkward teen years and is trying to make a go of it now
Mm.
as she's hit 18 or so. Um, you have a character who is okay. If she wasn't, if she looks like she's a VTuber, but that's just because of how she's drawn.
Yeah.
Um, like just a cutesy little like cat, like she does the cat girl mannerism thing you see in anime.
Oh. Yeah.
Like you have stuff like you have the doctor guy becoming an actor, the like the reincarnated doctor guy,
Okay.
as he continues to try to find leads on what happened to like, who his father is, and presumably, it's implied that the crazy fan who killed the mother was doing so at the behest of the father.
Oh. Okay.
And I just keep thinking about myself is the strengths of this show are undercut by the premise.
Mm.
And the premise of the show uh, is like it's like there's two halves that don't quite mesh.
Uh,
Because I keep thinking about it, like it's not like the reincarnated doctor guy ever really uses his medical knowledge to solve a problem.
hmm,
Like now, it's like it's implied that he is a great actor for his age because because he's an adult, he has more command of himself or whatnot. And
hmm, yeah.
but at the same time, I'm just going to put this out there. At least as far as the first season goes, there's nothing that would have prevented him from just being a prodigy trying to avenge his mother.
Oh. Hmm,
Later seasons might delve into it more, but like as of the first season, it's like I mean, I almost wonder if the premise of the reincarnation and the murder was like an attempt to gather information, gather attention, or I would love to hear the creative thought process for this.
yeah. Yeah. It's it's certainly odd. Yeah. Like that's. Uh, yeah. It's hard to get. I'm kind of having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Like okay.
It's
It's
like so I would say like knowing if I had known in advance what the show was, I probably would have had less of a violently negative reaction to having the idol yanked out from under me.
yeah.
Um, so now that I've popped that bubble for people, maybe you can go in and appreciate the show's strengths.
Yeah.
But it's just a and the other thing is that because of pacing, the last episode doesn't really have a climax.
Hmm.
Because like one of the girls is dealing with her imposter issues, and she deals with those in the first 5 minutes of the last episode, when it felt like the concert was the big buildup. But it's just because of how it's pacing forced by the length of chapters and stuff.
Hmm.
Because like it, would I rather that they have invented more problems for the finale to stretch it out? No, not really, but it still felt anticlimactic.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it's an uneven show.
Yeah. Hmm. Well.
Speaking of uneven shows,
Yeah. Yeah.
did I say uneven shows?
Uneven.
Okay. Well, now this show is fairly evil. Speaking of uneven shows,
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yes.
I was expecting from the Knuckles show. I'll be honest here. Daniel, have you seen the Sonic movies?
Yes.
Okay. So I can see the logic of giving Knuckles his own cartoon or cartoon. I keep wanting to call this a cartoon, and we'll get into why in a minute.
Yeah.
I can see the logic of giving Knuckles from that movie his own show because Idris Elba really owns that role.
Yeah. Yeah. He has the stoic warrior act down very well.
Even as he's saying insanely stupid things.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd go so far as to say that's the whole appeal of the character is stoic, badass, dumbass.
Yeah.
And the show keeps continuity with the second movie. He's now living with Sonic and Tails at the house of the human family from the first movie.
Yeah.
The wife is featured early on, and she has the same look of desperation in her eyes that I detected in the second movie. Where it's like she's much more of a character in the first movie,
Yeah.
and I think that she was enjoying herself more in that one. In this one, it's like, I mean, honestly, the second movie kind of devolved into racial stereotypes more than the first one did
Oh yeah.
with the aunt character,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and the aunt was already kind of a stereotypical character, like in the first movie. Like she kind of felt like a oh the car salespeople from the first Transformers movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Bernie Mac.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the type of character that Bernie Mac was playing in that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the problem is that Knuckles is trying to get into his life. with Sonic and friends, and he just can't adjust, and so he's at the
Mm.
on the verge of being kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah. He what's funny about that opening sequence where he's he attacks the contractors who are fixing up the house, thinking that they're an invading army or whatever. And it's funny because it's like, okay, he's a warrior and he thinks they're attacking, but also at the same time he's a kid and it's almost like he's pretending that they're.
Right. He's using his imagination to make things more interesting.
Right, yeah.
And he just wants to eat grapes and Cool Ranch Doritos and nothing else. So
Right, yeah.
he is a big kid.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he makes basically the throne from Game of Thrones out of like their car, and yeah.
Right. And he takes the golden retriever that they have and tries to put him into a gladiator match with the mailman, his most hated enemy.
Yes. I am so sorry. He's like, I just want to go home.
So I would say that's probably the best part of the 6 episodes is that opening bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get a little bit of Sonic, a little bit of Tails. Um, and I don't know if you recall this, but the hole in the house, that's the one that Knuckles made in the second movie, which makes it all the funnier that he's preventing them from fixing it.
Yeah.
But if you've seen other reviews of this or heard other reviews, you might have heard people say things like bait and switch, Knuckles is barely in this show, and so on.
Yes.
Um, we are not here to disagree with this assessment
No.
because the real main character is the screw up police deputy slash officer from the first couple of movies.
Yes. Wade Whipple. Um, yeah, he's one half of a bowling team, and but his so-called best friend, who's also a bounty hunter and is not as tough as he thinks he is. He's one of these like guys who puts on this like tough guy act, but in reality, he's really not all that tough.
No, but yeah, but Wibble gets kicked off of the team because he needs a better bowler with him, and so he chooses this Girl Scout.
Yes. Yeah, and so then Knuckles has a vision of his chief, Pachimachuk. Pachima, did I say that right?
I Man, I don't know. I'm not that much of a Sonic fan.
Okay. um, and yeah, his chief who tells Knuckles that he needs to take Wade on as an apprentice and teach him how to be a warrior, and then so the whole thing is basically Wade or Knuckles helping Wade learn the ways of the warrior so that he could be a better bowler, and the two of them go to Reno for the big bowling tournament, and of course adding into the conflict are these two corrupt gun agents who are trying to kidnap Knuckles so they can sell it to this like the Dollar General Robotnik.
Yeah,
Uh,
a character who is so unimportant that the subtitles only identify him as the buyer.
yeah,
He makes some sort of reference to having been an associate of the Doctor,
yeah,
but that's the most you get about him.
yeah. Um, and so it's really just it's a it, so putting Wade a character like Wade front and center. It sort of reminded me of when they did a spin-off movie of the Vacation series from and but with cousin Eddie in the lead role.
I was completely unaware they had done that.
Yeah, they did. It was a direct to video movie, and from the clips I've seen from it, it looked really bad.
Oof.
Yeah. But that's kind of what this reminded me of. It's like, okay, yeah, you're putting a very minor character from the first two movies and putting him in the lead, and he's just like, yeah, okay, yeah,
And I can kind of see why they would do this. They kind of blew their Knuckles budget on the first couple episodes, and to an extent, the last episode, because Knuckles is a fully CGI character, and if you aren't going to do the smart thing and make it like, imagine if it had been a Knuckles anime
mm,
or a Knuckles cartoon that you just brought the voice actors in for.
yeah, it would have been cheaper. Yeah,
Yeah. Or no, there was enough special effects in this thing. Like, so you had to have a human character to eat up screen time.
hmm
And I will say I did get a little bit of perverse joy out of some of the weird scenes. Like like you go to Wibble's household where his mother and sister are there for Shabbat, and they make a lot about his make a big point about his Jewishness, and Knuckles really enjoys the Jewish cooking and everything.
yes, he really, yeah, he really likes matzo ball soup and gefilte
Gef-
fish, and yeah,
Yes, um, eh, but the the weirdness of it is that, like, you have a scene where Knuckles and the guy's mother are teamed up to defend the Shabbat candles as they're being attacked by these corrupt gun agents. And they do this like 360-degree continuous pan shot action scene,
yes,
single cut to the tune of Hava Nagila.
yeah,
Like, it might be the most absurd thing I've seen this year.
yeah,
And I just did a review of Smiling Friends.
yeah,
I would call that one of the high points of the series. It's like, in terms of the special effects and Knuckles being Knuckles, episode one was the high point.
yeah.
In terms of the series' weird, goofy energy being at its best, it was episode three. I think I probably would have had a more positive take on it if I had done the 3 episode rule instead of being homesick from work and deciding to finish it off.
Yeah, yeah, because then episode four came around. When episode four comes around, it's like, okay, I think we both came to the conclusion that this was the all right. We need to save money on the budget. We can't use too much CGI. All right, well let's do this entirely Wade centered episode, and and do this weird like rock opera thing, and with like puppets, and make it look like a kids production, like a kids play
Uh,
production,
uh,
an elementary
with
school production.
was it Bon Jovi doing the singing?
I don't know if that was Bond.
Uh,
Well,
it was somebody with a name. No,
well,
Bolton. Michael Bolton.
Bolton, Michael, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Michael Bolton coming in to do the singing, and Bolton was good. Bolton's
yeah,
always good.
yeah,
His experience with the Lonely Island shows us that he has a sense of humor about himself at this point in his career.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it that whole episode was Wade's old friend, the bounty hunter, bowling buddy, uh, kidnaps him because he wants to collect on the bounty, and Knuckles just says no. Wade has to get out of this on his own, and
Yeah,
yeah,
which, man, that's a convenient way for Knuckles to not be in the episode.
yeah,
And they actually did something where I wondered if we were getting the initial pitch for the show before they saw the budget.
yeah,
Because they actually, the mad, at first I was going to give them kudos for, you mad geniuses, you're adopting Sonic 06, the game that nearly killed the whole franchise. Because that they had like this fiery demon there who looked like Iblis from that game. And there was a talk about the flames of destruction, which were this thing in the game that if Iblis bound, like Iblis's two sides came together, the flames of destruction would destroy the earth. And they had a character who was a psychic hedgehog named Silver the Hedgehog, who was basically future Trunks from Dragon Ball 100%, coming back in time to try to solve the problem. It's like, okay, if we get to like CGI Knuckles or excuse me, Silver the Hedgehog here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna forgive a lot of this show. We did not get that.
Okay, yeah.
Instead, we got a bowling tournament against Wibble's dad,
Mhm.
who was he Carrie Elwes?
Yeah.
Man, Carrie, you could do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I guess it's I know he was in a Daily Wire production at some point, so I guess it's good that they haven't completely blacklisted him for that. So good on
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But man, um, just wasn't good at the end. Like
No.
the buyer shows up, he uses his knockoff Robotnik tech to drain Knuckles of his energy.
Yeah.
Wibble
Yeah.
Wibble uses bowling balls to distract him. Then Knuckles activates the flames of destruction, which are just a minor fire-based power-up for his fists.
Yeah. Yeah. The final fight reminded me of the last fight in the first Sonic.
Just the Dollar General version.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Which it was totally not filmed in front of a green screen. Totally not. That was they definitely filmed that in the streets of Reno, Nevada.
Now, here's the thing: is the show doesn't really fancy itself an action show per se.
Yeah.
It thinks itself as a comedy. So, Daniel, how funny would you say the show is?
Eh.
It's about the right answer. Because when Knuckles is there, he's being Knuckles and is usually funny, and like it actually does kind of tie into your disaster artist review because
Mhm.
like that sincerity comes through.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Tommy Wiseau is funny because he is being sincere. Knuckles is funny because he's being sincere.
Yeah.
There's way too much ironic writing, like
Yeah.
people going too far with it's a brand of comedy that's kind of popularized by things like Parks and Rec and The Office and things like that, where the joke is that the person is awkward and is talking like a character in a TV show, but is aware that they are talking like a character in a TV show and comment on the fact that they're talking like a character in a TV show.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah, that gets old after a while.
Anti clever, would that be a way to put it? Like you're being intentionally unclever?
Yeah.
But you're
I
like,
think yeah.
I'm calling attention to the fact that I'm not clever, which means I'm clever.
Yeah.
I'm sucking on purpose, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mentioned it before. I think I mentioned with you that the interactions with Wade and his sister were just like nails on a
Yeah,
chalkboard. Like,
now she was just needlessly combative. And it's
yeah,
like it's almost like the writers hated Wibble, and so they just wanted a character to vent their frustrations at him and to hate him.
yeah,
Um, and actually, so here's an example of the two unclever writing here.
yeah,
Okay, so normal scene. Um, two characters meet up, and a character goes, "Fancy meeting you here." Yes, it is a coincidence, or something like that. Um, Wade and his sister meet at a casino in Reno, and they he and she goes, "Well, fancy meeting you here." And he goes, we literally agreed to greet or we literally agreed to meet here at this exact time."
yeah,
It's like the joke is that the sister is being belligerent in a stupid, unfunny way,
hmm
but also where you're playing on the fact that people would expect a line of fancy meeting you here to have some sort of, you know, to actually be a coincidence or to be somebody being ironic.
yeah,
But
and there,
Wibble's like he refuses to banter in turn.
yeah, it just dies.
Yeah, which that can be funny occasionally,
Yeah,
and it actually okay. You know what? That would have been funny if it had been Knuckles saying that because that's Knuckles. Knuckles is basically Drax the Destroyer from Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that I think about it,
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
except a more serious version.
Yeah.
Which is funny considering he's a CGI echidna, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Um, but like to make that particular joke really funny, what you needed was like a third party that somebody was trying to bamboozle.
Yeah.
Like if Wibble and his sister had been meeting there and had been trying to fool one of the gun agents that okay, I'll put a little twist on it. They
Mhm.
meet there, and the sister is pretending to be a gun agent, and she goes, "Well, fancy meeting you here." And before Wibble can respond with the line they've practiced, Knuckles goes, "Well, yes, we agreed to meet here at this time as part of our ruse."
Yeah.
Like that would have been funny
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's an expectation that's being broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the longer this went on, the less funny it got, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like you kept you keep wanting to call it a cartoon because it is. I mean, you pointed it out when we were talking that it's a live action cartoon. I mean,
Yeah,
it's yeah,
all the characters are ridiculous and cartoonish.
yeah, yeah, and it had, and I think I said it definitely has that Who Framed Roger Rabbit feel to it. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll kick the show one more time. Uh, there was a joke that I liked, but they went on for too long with it and killed it.
yeah,
Okay, so Wibble's dad is a professional bowler.
mhm.
Oh, sidebar. Is this thing in continuity with Dodgeball? Because they have ESPN 8 The Ocho with, I think, the original. No, no, it wasn't the original because
No,
what it,
no one the original announcers, no, but yeah, the ESPN the Ocho was from Dodgeball, yeah,
yeah, it had them there. And it's like, wait, what?
yeah. Well, yeah. ESPN actually occasionally they will do like the Ocho, like they'll turn one of their networks into the Ocho, and they'll show all these like obscure sports, you know,
Right,
stuff.
but still, like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah,
Anyways, so his dad's a bowling champion, so they go up to his suite, and it's super luxurious, and like, wow, this is exactly in keeping with the income of a bowling champion.
yeah,
They just but the problem is they drive that joke into the ground by, wow, and the sheets are gold, and you have your own terrace, exactly as you would expect from a bowling champion.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, you had a good joke and you killed it.
yeah, 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 yeah. That seems to be the theme of this show. Yeah, like another thing that I didn't like a joke they did that I didn't like was when right out in the fourth episode when right after when Wade breaks out of his little cell and he challenges his old friend to a duel and his friend gets on the motorcycle and they got the two Japanese swords and he rides the motorcycle down the end of the street. He's like, bet you will need to find a vehicle. Like what? Because he's all the way at the other end of the street, and
Guys are
it's
like
like,
hundreds of feet apart.
yeah, and it's like they did that in Shazam, and I'm like, "Ah, stop it, stop it, stop it.
You aren't clever because you notice that it's unrealistic that characters can talk to each other from a great distance.
Yeah, uh, yeah, but yeah, yeah, this show was basically a miss. Yeah,
Yeah. The good news is that it's there's absolutely no way that this is required viewing for Sonic 3 later this year. No, no way in hell.
I no, I don't think so. No, I we were talking before the show. I think the only reference that they'll probably have is they'll show Wade in his house and his bowling trophy is in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and also for there's a little bit of fan service for the Sega fans. Knuckles got his cowboy for his Australian bushwhacker hat
Hmm.
from that one OVA they made that one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, The other thing, the soundtrack of this one was weird because it was just all 80s music, and it felt like an 80s bowling movie with Knuckles stapled onto it.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of reminded me of Kingpin. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I haven't.
Oh,
It definitely did make me think that Guardians of the Galaxy kind of ruined soundtracks by just
mm,
making everybody decide to license a bunch of pop songs that are relatively obscure and inexpensive.
yeah,
Oh well, at least at least it was just a TV show. It's not like we had a whole movie
yeah.
that did that exact same thing. And oh wait,
Oh wait, there was. Yeah.
so we decided to watch Baby Driver,
Mhm.
which I had never seen this before. Had you seen any of it?
I had not seen it. No.
No, but it was definitely on my to watch list.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, it's the the titular Baby Driver, the actor Ansel Elgort, is in. He's in Tokyo Vice. He's the lead guy in that show. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this movie, because I liked him in that show. Um, but yeah, this movie was odd. Another odd uh, little little movie that I know a lot of people really enjoy it, but I kind of I had a hard time getting into it, especially in the third act, which we'll get into once we get that far. But yeah.
Yeah. So this thing was apparently Edgar Wright's version of James Cameron's Avatar, in the sense that it's an idea he had for a movie like 20 years ago, or 20 years before this came out in 2015 or so.
20 I think 2017.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
But came out. He'd been working on it for 20 years, and I guess he finally got enough cachet to make it happen.
Yeah, because he had done Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, uh although oh no, Last Night in Soho was after this one. But yeah, yeah, he's and of course I think he directed this movie after he got fired from Ant-Man.
Yeah, which I always hear everybody bemoan, "Oh, we could have gotten a better version of Ant-Man with Edgar Wright in charge."
I don't know about that.
Yeah, watching this is kind of making me question that.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about this movie. This movie is the fight scene from Hot Fuzz where they fight the zombies in sync with the Queen music as an entire movie.
Oh, Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. Did I say Hot Fuzz? Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
Excuse
yeah.
me.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's that zombie Corey. It's that synced in sync with the music zombie fight scene for an entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because so the I said this before when we were talking before the show, but I mean this is one of those movies that has a gimmick to it, and like what you were saying. So like the gimmick of it is, and the reason for the music thing is, Baby has tinnitus, or is it tinnitus or tinnitus? I don't know.
Um, I think tinnitus.
Tonight, I've always heard tinnitus, which is a constant ringing in your ears, and he drowns out the ringing by listening to music in his earbuds, and he listens to the music when he's driving the getaway car. And so the whole movie is basically having all of these action scenes in sync, in tune with the music that he's listening to.
Right. Sometimes it'll be little beats of the action, like a turning of the wheel or something,
Yeah.
or him hitting the accelerator. In gunfights, it'll be like the gunfire will be in sync with the song perfectly.
Yeah. And it and so that's kind of the basic hook of it, and then you've got it. The whole movie is basically focused on him. I mean, I think he's like in almost every scene in the movie, practically, um, except for maybe like one or two here and there. But So the plot of the movie is Baby is he's a getaway driver for a criminal who's played by Kevin Spacey, and he works for Kevin Spacey reluctantly because he Baby had a really rough childhood. His parents died in a car wreck. He was raised by
And it
his
wasn't much better before that.
no, it wasn't much better before that. Yeah, his dad was a real prick. Um, and so he was raised by his foster father who's deaf. And so he spent his childhood stealing cars, and he happened to one of the cars he stole happened to belong to Kevin Spacey. And Spacey tracked him down and said, "All right, well, you're gonna work off your debt to me." And so that's how he became his getaway driver. And they Spacey hires a crew of different criminals to rob banks or rob uh, armored trucks, and and basically Baby gets like 1% of the share that he would have gotten normally. Um, up until and then he does like one last there's like one last job that he does. Well, so the first job is with John Bernthal, John Hamm, and John Hamm's wife in the movie. Um, and then the second job is with Jamie Foxx and two other guys. And the scene where they're all putting on these, they told him they tell before the job they tell him, okay, wear these Michael Myers Halloween masks. So one of the guys who buys the masks, he buys Austin Powers masks because they're like, oh, Michael Myers,
Yeah.
yeah, and Mike Myers, Halloween mask. He's like, no, it's Halloween. These are Halloween masks. No, Michael Myers, the from the Halloween movies, the killer. Oh, you mean Jason?
Yeah. That's a good example of the type of dialogue you get in this movie,
Yeah,
where it's like for a lot of it, it didn't really hit home for me. I thought the situation was funny, but the dialogue always just seemed a little tin to me, or too clever to me.
yeah, which tends to happen with Edgar Wright movies. If you go back and watch some of them, like he'll do that sometimes, and it's like, okay, come on, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So Baby does his last couple of jobs. His foster father is not too happy about this, but since he's deaf and wheelchair bound, he can't exactly force him to stop with this racing.
Yeah, yeah, and then he goes, and he frequents a diner uh, where um, where his mother worked, and then he meets a waitress named Deborah, who's played by Lily James, who if you watch Downton Abbey, I believe she was on Downton Abbey. Um, and she was Cinderella in the Disney live action Cinderella.
Okay.
Uh, um, and so they have this real whirlwind romance, and then but then Spacey shows up and tells Baby, "Hey, I got more work for you to do."
Right.
Because
You aren't out of the gang just because you paid off your debt.
right, yeah, because and from his perspective, it's like, you're a really good getaway driver, and I have every job you've done for me has been successful. Like, I'm not letting you walk away, man.
You're my good luck charm, man.
Yeah, yeah. So they got one more. So they planning another job to rob a post office. Uh,
Get some money transfer orders that their guy can use to turn each transfer order into $1,000.
right, and now it's John Hamm, John Hamm's wife, and then Jamie Foxx, and of course things just start getting really bad because Jamie Foxx's character is very trigger happy. He's just a total psychopath.
Right. Like they're getting the weapons for it.
Yeah,
And here was an example of like the overly clever dialogue. Okay, so they're doing a gun buy,
yeah,
and the guy who's running the gun buy comes out and he says, oh, you're. I don't know if he was doing this just because he was being ironic or if he was worried about them being bugged or something.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, we sell only the finest cuts of meat of pork here, and
Yeah.
oh, here we have the the sides. He
Yeah.
pulls
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of rifles, and then of course we have the best hawks in the business. He reveals a bunch of grenades.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Eh,
he's got, oh, we got this great bacon, and yeah, and it's like more rifles, and yeah. Yeah. And then of course Jamie Foxx, he sees that they're all police weapons. So he thinks that these guys are cops, and
and he recognizes one of them as a cop who had put him away.
yeah, and so he just proceeds to shoot them, and then they get into this gunfight and take the guns away, and then they go back to their hideout, and Spacey's like, yeah, those were my cops. They were I was paying
I
them
paid for
off.
them.
Yeah, yeah. You screwed up royally, dudes.
Yeah, and so then yeah, so it's basically just it's baby trying to get out of it,
Right.
out of this criminal life, and run off with his girlfriend.
Yeah, and it the and I alluded to this earlier, but the third act in the movie, when they go and they rob the post office. Well, okay, so before that, uh, baby tries to leave, and then he gets stopped by John Hamm and Jamie Foxx, and then they go to his apartment and they beat up his foster father, and then they find a bunch of tapes, uh,
Oh
because
yeah,
because so
and I even mentioned this when I was watching it.
yeah. Yeah,
Like,
he
uh,
likes to record the conversations with people. Yeah,
and then he turns them into remixes.
yeah, and because yeah, and I think Jamie Foxx was the one who sees him or recording the conversations, and so then they go to his apartment, they beat up his foster father, and they get the tape remixes and listen to them, and so they basically are like, okay, you're out, baby. And but baby's like, no, 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 I can do this, and da da da. And um so then they end up going to the post office to do the robbery of the post office, but then baby takes action, and he kills Jamie Foxx by driving the car, forward, where there's a bunch of rebar sticking out, and impales him with it. And like the the third act of the movie, to me, really drug on way too long, because it was like, okay, they do one thing, and then like then they go, and then he goes to another place, and then he's got to do something, and then he has to leave that place, and he has to go somewhere else, and then he has to leave that place and go somewhere else, and then it just
Right, and then they have to steal some cars from somebody.
yeah.
And then they end up in a parking garage, and John Hamm has been chasing him down, even though he's been shot several times by now.
Yes, yeah, because he's mad because the job went south, and then his wife got killed in a shootout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that one of the I would just say that probably one of my bigger problems with the movie, outside of getting tired of the gimmick pretty early on,
Yeah.
like I legitimately remember thinking during the first chase sequence in the first act of the movie, "Oh no, is this what the whole movie's going to be?"
Yeah.
Because this is like a because it's like one of those things where it's kind of funny to do like as a thing in the middle of an action scene, but putting the whole action scene to the song just like got very tiring very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it did, yeah. And then it was like, okay, yeah, so every chase scene and every action scene was gonna have some weird be set to the music, and like, oh, okay.
And even some of the non-action scenes, like interactions he has with his foster father and his girlfriend,
Yeah.
uh, were put to the music.
Hmm.
But I would actually say that Ansel Elgort's performance as Baby, and or maybe just the writing of Baby, was another problem with it, because he's a very closed off character. He's always has his earbuds in. he usually is, or he often is wearing sunglasses,
Yeah.
so you can't fully see what he's doing, and he just kind of sulks his way through the movie.
Yeah. I think that's and I think that's the way the character was written. Because like I said, I mean, I've seen him in Tokyo Vice. He's really good in that show. So I'm assuming it's just the way the character is written.
It just doesn't. It just didn't really work for me because I had a hard time connecting with the character,
Yeah.
and it's like you can kind of sympathize with the situation, but it's also you have been profiting off of this for a very long time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And although he does end up using that money for kind of for something good, which
Right?
was
He puts up his foster dad in a nice retirement home.
yeah. Um. But yeah. In the yeah the whole the whole end of the movie was just like getting so repetitive, and then um
It almost felt like Edgar Wright couldn't decide what songs he wanted to do for the last act, so he did all of them.
yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
And the thing is, like each song is, I think most of the songs are played to completion, right?
I think so, yeah, or very near completion, yeah.
So it's not even like you have like snippets of songs. It's
Yeah.
just like the fight scene has to be several songs long.
Yeah. Yeah. And it yeah, you know disappointing to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been looking forward to this for a while. Now, in terms of positive points, I will say that John Hamm's character does something really bastardly to him at the end. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm going to take away your ability to enjoy things. He just fires twice right next to his ears when his whole existence is listening to this music.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was cold.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Yeah, I saw something similar in Copland. I don't know if you ever seen that movie with Sylvester Stallone.
No.
He plays a cop who he plays like a small town sheriff,
Hmm.
and he wanted to be an NYPD cop, but he lost hearing in his left ear.
Hmm.
And then at the end of the movie, the bad guy shoots the gun right next to his good ear, so it just makes him completely
Oh,
deaf. Like, jeez,
yeah, that's a jerk move.
yeah,
Um, as far as negatives, so I would say that the mobster characters were mostly on point for the type of character they were. Like, you know, Jamie Foxx is having fun hamming it up as a psychopath.
yeah, yeah,
John Hamm comes across as kind of like the intense but passionate guy who's mostly professional until he's given a reason not to be.
yeah.
Kevin Spacey almost seemed too nice. Like he definitely had a soft spot for Baby.
Yeah, 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 I noticed that too. Like, yeah, for as a but he has this underlying thing, like, but he's not afraid to threaten baby, to get him to do what he wants. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's this kind of weird like dynamic where he definitely has definitely cares for him in some weird twisted way.
Yeah. I would also say that Lily James's character is a weak point because, put a gun to someone's head who watched this movie. Name two traits that the character has besides being a cute waitress who has a soft spot for Baby.
Um, she's a good singer.
Okay, you got one.
uh, 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 yeah, I got nothing else. Aw,
So yeah, she didn't really have any personality. Was
yeah,
kind of the thing. Like they clearly had like some chemistry between them, but that's different than her being an interesting character in herself.
yeah. I think she reminded him of his mom.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I wonder if part of or if the movie could have had more edge if it had been more willing to make Baby more villainous.
Mm,
Because, like, he's a he's a reluctant villain. He's a good boy. He's taking care of his elderly minority deaf foster parent who watched after him for all those years. And oh, he hates doing this, but he has to do it. And oh, he's nice and he makes him his favorite peanut butter sandwich with the peanut butter spread all the way to the edge. And
Edge.
this girl falls in love with him right away. And
Yeah.
oh, he's a good boy and he wants to go and do the honest thing, but he's pulled back into the life because Kevin Spacey is too mean. And in his trial at the end, when he's finally caught, multiple people he was responsible for robbing, including one woman whose car he stole. Like, oh, yeah, he. Then the weirdest thing, he said, "I'm sorry," and tossed me my purse. And oh,
Yeah.
I think that he saved me from going into the post office because he knew something was going to happen. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, okay, okay, we get it. Baby's a nice kid.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah. 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 If they made him little more ruthless, like, like,
wait a minute. Is
yeah.
Baby a Mary Sue?
Oh. Oh, he might be. Oh, jeez.
Because he has characters who are irrationally fond of him,
Yeah. Hmm.
and the characters who dislike him are always the villain.
Yeah.
Like Jamie Foxx doesn't seem to like him from the start.
Right. Yeah. And John Hamm hates him at the end.
Right?
Uh.
Though John Hamm, okay, he probably had the most reason of anybody in the movie for anything they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like Kevin Spacey, the ruthless mob boss, has a soft spot in his heart for him, and even as he's destroyed his enterprise, he's willing to help him out, and even dies in a gunfight trying to protect them.
Yeah. Yeah. And Baby really doesn't face like devastating challenges.
No, but,
Yeah.
maybe. So I'm going to pitch my alternate take on this. Have Baby be a more willing participant in this. If you're going to have Kevin Spacey basically be his father figure anyway,
Hmm.
um, just have him be his adopted father or father.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe even he became his foster father after seeing that this orphan boy was able to steal his car and give him a good chase.
Yeah. Or better yet, give him a better reason to want to rob and to participating in the robberies, like, like paying his foster father's medical bills, or
Right, like make it more of a choice rather than do it or die.
yeah, yeah.
Which that's another like Mary Sue-ish type thing where it's like, oh, but he doesn't want to do this criminal stuff that's really cool and bitchin' awesome. He's forced to.
Yeah,
And then you have more room for Lily to come in and reform him by the love of an honest woman and all that.
yeah, yeah,
And then like and then the bit where he leaves and becomes a pizza delivery boy for a while,
yeah,
uh, and could have more meaning because he'd be breaking away from being a criminal for the first time in forever. And then it becomes more tragic when Kevin Spacey shows him and goes, "Yeah, you weren't out of the gang. What are you talking about?"
yeah, yeah,
Dang, I kind of want to see that version of the movie now because I think that lack of edge is part of what I didn't like about it.
yeah,
It's edgy
yeah,
in the wrong spots.
yeah. I think you cracked the code there. Yeah.
Uh, Now, here's the thing: we are a minority opinion on this one. Like, I
Hmm.
looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes. If you, as much as you trust it, it's like a 96% critic review, 80 something percent audience review. Everyone I've ever heard talk about this, ranging from Genghis Khan to Andrew Clavin, raved about this movie. It could just be that it's a gimmick that didn't appeal to us because of our particular tastes.
Yeah.
Um, but what I think is that the style and like it was executed extremely well. Like it's a challenge, it's a technical achievement to sync all of that action and driving and gunfire and everything to the music the way they did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if you can ignore us being cranks about, oh, the characters weren't very interesting,
Yeah.
you can probably have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But dang, that might be the Man, I can't think of the last time I declared a character a Mary Sue, and I was not expecting it to be for Baby Driver.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Surprising. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
Well, on that note, we're out of stuff to talk about.
yes, we are. Well, yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Yep. Later, guys.